Good morning, everyone. Let us start today's session with the prayer. A very good morning to all the participants for today's session. आप सभी को मेरा नमस्कार. I welcome you all to this 4-day online workshop on Ultimate Mantra for Wellbeing. For this workshop, I would like to welcome Dr. Usha Vastare and Mr. Vasant Jaju from Yogakshem.
Namaste.
Namaste, Vasant bhai.
Namaste.
Good morning, Ushanti.
Thank you. Namaste.
I would like to give a short introduction of both our esteemed faculty members. Dr. Usha Vastare is a distinguished neuroscientist, author, and social worker. She has been a faculty of Temple University, School of Medicine, Philadelphia, USA for a period of 17 years. She has published over 70 research papers and abstracts in reputed journals and contributed to 5 books used for continuing medical education course. She is the co-founder of non-profit and voluntary service organization called Yogakshem. Yogakshem aims to bring the confluence of science and spirituality in their talks and workshops. Their workshops are based on the most recent advances in neuroscientific research and are geared to the participants in improving their quality of life. Over the last 15 years, more than 30,000 people have attended in about 1,000 such workshops and have testified to the benefits derived from them. Yogakshem's objective is to introduce positive psychology, practical and scientific methods to lead a holistic living. This includes workshops on stress management, mindfulness, forgiveness, depression, mind training, palliative care, and healthy living style. Mr. Vasant Jaju is the Director of Wellness at Yogakshem. He has done his master's in microwave engineering from IIT Kharagpur. He has worked in cellular and satellite communication domain for 17 years for several MNCs both in India and abroad. About 14 years back, he decided to quit his corporate career to explore meta questions behind life and sustainable living. Since then, he has been volunteering his time for various NGOs. He has attended several workshops and conferences on yoga, alternative therapies, forgiveness, mind training, vipassana meditation camps, sustainable living, science and spirituality confluence, etc. During this period and based on his own experiences, his conviction grew much stronger about the therapeutic aspects of yoga, mindfulness, and various alternative treatments. He has been a long-term mindfulness practitioner and is also keenly interested in yoga and Ayurveda. Both he and his wife, just my voice is echoing. He and his wife share their experiences and learnings by conducting yoga therapy classes for diverse sets of audiences from children to senior citizens. I wholeheartedly welcome both of you, Usha ma'am and Vasant bhai, and both of them are associated with Nisargopchar Kendra and have been helping us to conduct various lectures, webinars, and workshops. Ma'am and Vasant bhai, I welcome you both, and I would request you to take over from here and start the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ravish bhai. It has been long that we haven't had a chance to see each other face to face. And it's really a pleasure to be back at this HHL program and being on the platform of Nisargopchar Kendra to conduct this workshop on ultimate mantra for well-being. Most of you would have read about a very brief introduction about this workshop. And we have intentionally not laid out as to what specific areas we are going to focus on. As most of you know, wellness is quite a big and a huge topic. And it's only gathering more and more interest world over in today's very fast-paced technological era. Although we all know that most people live in sort of material abundance, and also with the modern health facilities, we have seen that the overall life expectancy is definitely on the rise. However, everybody is also questioning themselves whether their quality of life or their wellness is also being equally augmented as a result of that. When I say wellness, we are going to talk about what wellness we mean in the context of this workshop later on. But primarily being able to live with a sense of zest, a sense of awe and wonder in our life. So these are some of the questions which we had put forth, and our attempt in this workshop is to primarily look at two major key factors that we strongly believe in at Yogakshema, which are extremely relevant to keep enhancing our overall well-being. So with this brief introduction, I would like to share the slides. Is my voice clear, Ravish bhai?
Yes, Vasant bhai.
Okay. Thanks. You're able to see the slides?
Yes, Vasan bhai.
Okay, thanks. So this is a part of the 4-day event, also a part of the overall holistic healthy living course that Nisargupta Kendra has been conducting for several years for the benefit of community, for people who are genuinely interested in various facets of holistic healthy living. Now, before we get on to the actual presentation, we'll just start with a very quick mindful breathing practice, just to make sure that we get settled down comfortably and we are able to focus, connect with ourselves, because all of presentation for next 4 days are primarily based upon understanding our brain and mind through the latest advances in the field of neuroscience. So keep reflecting to yourself as we are going through the presentation. Now, before we get on to the presentation, let us just get settled down comfortably. With our eyes gently closed. Let's keep our back and neck straight and alert. And let us relax our facial muscles, neck muscles. And let us practice a simple, powerful meditative practice called as mindful breathing, or the practice of prana dharana in yogic scriptures. Let us take some deep breaths so that we can feel our breath. And let us connect with our breathing. Observe our breath as we inhale. And as we exhale. And as we get connected to our breathing, let us slowly come back to natural breath, normal breath. But continue to feel the breath. Let us find out whether we are breathing predominantly from the right nostril or maybe left nostril. Or maybe simultaneously and symmetrically from both the nostrils. Just observe breathing. And thus get completely anchored at the present moment. Let's try and keep all our distractions away. Let us feel the breath touching the inner walls of the nostrils. And as we inhale, feel the cool air entering the nostrils. And as we exhale, feel this slight warm air coming out. Let us sensitize ourselves to feel this temperature difference between the incoming and outgoing breath. As we are feeling the breath, some thoughts may come and go. So be it, just witness those thoughts without reacting to them. Gently, let us keep coming back to the breath. And with this practice of mindful breathing, Now let us just slightly defocus and feel the entire body. Become once again aware of our posture. And let us just chant Shanti Mantra. You may join the palms together. Inhale. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Gently rub your palms over each other. Generate a little warmth. Keep your palms over your eyes. Relax your eyes, eye muscles. And gently looking at the palms. Open your eyes. Thank you. So that was a very simple practice of mindful breathing. The science behind this practice, specifically from a neuroscience point of view, Dr. Usha Vastare, we call her Usha Auntie, as we have been associated with her for so long. All of us in Yogakshema have been referring, so I'll be referring to her more as Usha Auntie. She'll be going through it and talking about it as we are going to slowly unravel the various neuroscience concepts in the context of enhancing our well-being. Now, before I hand it over to her for the presentation, I thought this would be a good time to first get a small peek into your thoughts as to what does this topic mean to you. So we'll just take some 4-5 quick responses, Ravish Bhai, so that we get a feel of what is there in the thoughts of some of the people, and then we'll go on to the presentation.
Sure, Vasant Bhai. So as Vasant Bhai said, the participants who would like to share their thoughts on this may use the raise hand option, or even directly unmute themselves and speak.
Yeah, specifically, we would like to get a feel for when you saw about the introductory note about the workshop and specifically about ultimate mantra for well-being, the topic. What are some of the thoughts that come up front in your mind? Whatever it comes, please just speak out.
Ina ji.
I'm sorry, I didn't get such a positive feeling. I thought everyone's promising this. Why are they promising this?
Okay.
Krishna Joshi. Krishna Ben, your mic is on mute mode. You need to unmute.
Sorry. Good morning. Ultimate mantra for a well-being means it includes physical, mental, social, and emotional well-being. All aspects of well-being is included in this, and I think I'm looking forward for a much more positive inputs which improves my life with this. Thank you so much for introducing this concept in our day-to-day life. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Krishna ji.
Yashashri Ben.
Jai Shri Krishna, sir.
Yes.
The very first thing which touched my heart was the word mantra. Mantra actually, according to what I have a little bit of understanding, scientific. Spiritual it is, but scientific it's more, I feel so. If one learns this science, I'm sure that we all would be aware about how we are living and how we need to live our life further. So I already yesterday read about Ushaji's work on the website. So I was a little bit getting connected to her since yesterday. So I'm looking forward to see that I learn a lot of how to live our life and make the best of our potentials, which God has already given us, but we are unaware about it. So I wish luck to each participant and thank you, sir and madam and Nisargopchar for this organizing this 4 days workshop. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Yashasvi Ben.
Deepak bhai.
Yeah, from mantra, what I understood is mantra is something which has capsulated most of the information in a one very concisely. So ultimate mantra means we can remember the key things which are covered in that. So it becomes very easy and more useful without going with more information. But mantra itself is good enough to take care of many things. That is what my understanding is. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Deepak ji.
Raju bhai.
Namaskar, sir. Thank you very much for introducing such a wonderful and creative need-based platform. We are blessed with the divine body and very wonderful mind. So when you have asked us to close our eyes and what you have instructed us to observe the breath, itself it takes to the relaxation. Because the world is moving highly technological advancement in a very run mode. So here we feel peace and the well-being is the very needed and very much required subject on today's world to help ourselves and to help our humanity. Thank you very much for this well-being.
Thank you. Thank you, Raju ji. We'll probably take one more and then we will move on to the presentation. If there is any.
और कोई अपने थॉट्स शेयर करना चाहेगा? पार्टिसिपेंट्स हिंदी या गुजराती में भी अपनी बात रख सकते हैं। वसंत जी और मैं आपका जो आपकी बात है उसको समझने में और आपके साथ इंटरेक्ट करने में हम मदद करेंगे। प्लीज एनीवन वुड लाइक टू शेयर थॉट्स?
Basant,
Mm-hmm.
I lost the last couple of the things. I had to reconnect. If you can, one of the participants was talking about mantra, both scientific and from spiritual angle. After that, I lost. If you can just, rather than taking one more, if you can just let me know what happened in those 2 minutes, and then it would be
Sure,
good.
certainly, yes. He was mentioning about the way he relates with the word mantra is something which is very powerful that one can keep in our mind and keep repeating that and hold on to that so that we keep enhancing our well-being. That was his way of looking at the word mantra. It's very, very nice of him to be thinking it that way.
Okay.
Okay, so with this, now I'd like to have Usha Aunty start off with a presentation. You'd like to share?
Yeah.
And there are, what we have planned out is there will be after every neuroscience concept or after any major topic that has been discussed, there will be time for interaction. However, if somebody has a need, urgent need to immediately speak about certain things, feel free to raise your hand. And if it is appropriate, we will also entertain questions in between. Yeah. Over to you.
Okay. Yeah. All the responses are so relevant, especially the first participant who said, yes, people keep promising things. And one more thing, so what is, it's a very natural response. I agree to this. However, what we would like you all to do is to wait until the fourth day. We're going to build up, not just give you a certain mantra and ask you to repeat, and then the miracle is going to happen, magic is going to happen. None of that. We might be using the word mantra, but we're going to focus completely on from the scientific angle. Even if there is time, even what is mantra from a scientific angle, we will be able to address that issue. So everything what we're going to be sharing with you all is evidence-based research based on the recent advances in neuroscience research. And what especially for me, this is so powerful is that whatever has been said in our scriptures, and not just in our scriptures, an ancient wisdom, let us put it this way, rather than just our scriptures, what has been said in ancient wisdom, now we have evidence to prove that most of the things, whatever we have been talking about, whichever religion it is holding true. What we need to understand is so based on where we are in our lives, we only take scripture for that matter. So when we bring in the scientific angle, it becomes common. Science is about commonality. And not only is it common, it is also going to be reproducible, irrespective of what race, religion, creed that we belong to. That is the power of science. So addressing that issue, and then of course, this is the need of the hour that we will see, especially in this technological era. What we're going to be addressing these 4 days, and each topic we're going to build it up every day. So we would want you to keep an open mind and go with this, because we're, at least I can speak for Vasant also, we're not just sharing the recent advances in neuroscience research, for many of us in Yogakshema, this has become our life, and we are sharing our joy of how we have put this into practice in our lives. So beyond the science, you can also talk about how it has affected many of our lives, so that it will give even more of a deeper understanding. With this, let me start sharing the screen. And then, okay. You're absolutely right when you said well-being is all about physical well-being, right? That's the first thing that comes to our mind. And we know now it's not just about the physical well-being, but it's also about our emotional health, about our mental health, because we clearly understand a very close connection between this body and mind. So we understand well-being is not just about the physical body, but also about our mental health. So if that is the case, having a healthy body and a healthy mind, will that translate to a happy human being? naturally this question arises, is that so? Is this all there is to it? When we ask this question, we usually understand that it is not just about taking care of our body and our mind. There is something more to it. That's why I call it mind body connection plus. So, what is that plus? What is that plus? As Vasant mentioned, we're going to reveal that at the end of today's session. And then we're going to build that up after that. So with this, what is that plus, we will see. But this is how the flow for today's topic is going to be. We just finished the introduction that there is a close connection between mind, body, and also our behavior. You will see not just a close connection between mind and body, but our actions, our behavior is also connected. After that, we're going to understand about what is wellness and what is health. Sometimes we equate these two terms and then we use it synonymously. But when we look at it from a scientific perspective, there is a whole lot of difference between what is well-being and what is health. We're going to understand that. And we're going to understand the difference between health and wellness with respect to where we are in our evolution process. In other words, the survival mode, quote unquote, survival mode concept, and also evolving human beings concept. We're going to understand health and wellness from this angle. Just understanding this is not going to be enough. We need to understand what is it that is preventing us to evolve as human beings, whether it is at an individual level or at a collective level. What is it that is preventing us to evolve? And then we're going to introduce some new concept about one simple diagram we call that as key symptom cycle. What is it? What it represents? We will understand. Extremely important for us to understand this concept of wellness through that. And then finally, as I said, we're going to reveal what is that plus? Mind, body, behavior, connection, plus. What is that plus? And then we will conclude today's session. So everything you can think of begins with a thought. What type of thought it is? Whether it is a deliberate thought, conscious thought, or is it an automatic thought? Is it a limiting thought? Is it an evolving thought? Is it a negative thought? Is it a positive thought? We're going to question all of this, but we need to understand everything. Everything begins with a thought. Even our emotions and feelings, the precursor to that is a thought. So with this, we're going to go into what is wellness and health and relate to survive, evolve concept. Over to you, Vasant.
Yeah. Thanks, Vicky. You may want to unshare at your end.
Oh, okay, you want it. Fine.
Okay, so let us just quickly cover some of the aspects with regards to what we mean by health and wellness. You have all heard about the the famous World Health Organization's definition about health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So I'm sure as a part of the holistic healthy living course, several speakers would have covered about this and spoken about this from various different dimensions. However, what we are going to focus on more on with regards to the difference between the health and wellness. Now, wellness, as it is primarily looked at, is sort of completely different than health. It's talking about our enthusiasm to learn, being able to live our life with a sense of awe, a wonder, an enthusiasm, and a zest. Enthusiasm to be compassionate, to be empathetic, and even as we age and even on the deathbed, how do we continue to have a zest for the life that has been privileged and that has been endowed on us? So in a nutshell, from a practical point of view, from our day-to-day living point of view, leading a more enriching and a fulfilling life full of emotional stability, clear thinking, the ability to love and serve oneself and others, the people around us, and of course be willing to embrace change and uncertainties in a very healthy manner. So these are some of the facets based upon which we look at wellness. So try to look at health and wellness in a very, very different way, not just the physical, mental health, but also wellness from the point of view of all these dimensions. Now, let's look at some of the most common scenarios. So we all know that when our health goes down, our sense of wellness also goes down. We have all experienced that. Even if we have a minor cold, how difficult it becomes to really have a kind of emotional stability, how difficult it becomes to learn new things. And at that point of time, we always feel that everything else is fine, except this cold should go away. And if we have something else, let's say a back pain or a neck pain, we feel that, oh, this is one of the worst ailment that one has. If this goes away, everything would be fine. But so we have all experienced this, how as to how our wellness also goes down when our health goes down. However, we have also experienced quite often our health is fine. We are perfectly fine both at a physical level, mental level, emotional level. We have a very successful career. We are doing well. However, as one crosses typically beyond the age of 30, 35, and I would say I'm very glad that people are questioning about these aspects even at a very early stage. Youngsters are questioning about this even within first 2-3 years of their career, that their enthusiasm or zest that they had when they had started their first job or the first project in their life is no more existing. Something is missing. Although they have been successful in their careers, but their ability to learn new things, being able to live with on a day-to-day basis with a sense of wonder seems to be going down. So that's when the questioning begins. They feel that something is missing in their life and they're trying to figure out and find those missing puzzles in their life. Now let's look at the third row over here. Especially as we go through the aging process, even if we have best of the physical health, mental health, as we go through the aging process, yes, some part of the body will age a little more, a little faster than the other parts. Maybe knee pain, back pain, hypertension, diabetes, all these things are very common in today's era. They will come and go. However, how can we also, at the same time, although health is going down, it's part of the chronic problem, part of the aging process, how do we keep our wellness still high? How do we keep our enthusiasm still going and still continuing to live a life full of zest? When I look at this third row, what reminds me is really of my grandmother, who even at the age of 92, despite having problems with her knees, she would still look at each day in a completely new way without any hangover of the previous day, and would still do each and everything that is possible for her at this age, at that age. And towards the end of the day, she'll be also willing to tell us stories. That time I was at the age of about 10 years, and still be able to live and pass on that zest to the next generation. So that's something that comes to my mind when I look at the third row over here, where the health is low, but still the wellness is still high. And the last one, yes, it's a very ideal situation that one would like to achieve. Health is great, and the wellness is also great. Both of them are on the uptrend. Something I look at it as a very fortunate people who have graceful aging all through their lives, and they continue to live their life with full of zest, full of awe and wonder. Now, through this, we have tried to explain the 4 different major scenarios with regards to health and wellness, and one has to figure out as to where do we stand, or we may be even moving between rows based upon times or the situation. But most important aspect is how do we keep enhancing our wellness till our last breath. Now let's once again look back at the first 2 rows where the wellness is basically on the declining side. At Yogakshema, we call this as more as being in the survival mode, just living our life, just adjusting, dealing, and just managing our life rather than being able to continuously keep learning about ourselves or refining or retuning our own worldview as we go through our life experiences. So this is primarily what we call it as a survival mode. On the contrary, when the wellness continues to be on the higher side, we call that as being in the evolving mode of our lives, being able to continuously keep learning. And this essentially is a difference that we would like to draw between survive and evolve in this framework in the context of health and wellness. The question that we at Yogakshema believe in asking to ourselves as we are going through life situations, life incidences, through each situation, do I want to just survive through this situation, or do I want to use this situation as an opportunity to evolve? So other than other situations, here we have tried to use this in the context of health and wellness. Okay, that was a very brief introduction of health and wellness, trying to draw very clear differences between the two. And so again, we will take some quick questions over here, so that this topic of health and wellness is very clear before we dive into further details. Yes, Rakeshji.
Good morning. Health is in general a physical context, and wellness is a mental context, or what exactly it means in Hindi, or what is the difference?
Okay. हिंदी में तो मैं अभी एग्जैक्टली बता नहीं पाऊंगा, मुझे थोड़ा सोचना पड़ेगा उसके बारे में. लेकिन हमारे जीवन में कितना उल्लास है, वो वेलनेस डिफाइन करती है. और हेल्थ मतलब ठीक है, अपन डॉक्टर्स के पास चले गए, सारे डायग्नोस्टिक टेस्ट कर लिए, रिपोर्ट कर लिए, सब कुछ ठीक है, बॉडी इज हेल्दी, Mentally, we are by and large fine. Everything is going okay. That is at the level of health.
Right. So wellness is related with mind mainly, as I understood.
Yes, that is one aspect of it. We'll also look at something beyond mind. That is a plus factor that we'd
Yeah.
like to talk about it towards the end of
Okay.
today's presentation. Definitely my body, mind, and something beyond that.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we can straight away move on. Auntie, you can
Okay,
take on the next part.
sure. Okay. In this flow, we have covered at least superficially the difference between health and wellness. And Rakesh Bhai, we're going to go deeper in the next 4 days what wellness means. It is a whole lot more than just even at the level of mind. So this is where we're going to build on this in the next 3 days. And then how can we be well? That is the most important thing. Even if we are physically not healthy, how can we be well? That is the whole idea. And not just be well, and to be evolving into better human beings, both at an individual level and at the collective level, be it at a family level or organization level. So with that, what is it? Oh, okay. What is it that prevents us to evolve? What is it that prevents us to be well? We can be very healthy, or our health, physical health may not be as great. And then, but yet we can be evolving irrespective of how healthy or not. So, what is it that is preventing us to evolve? Is the question. That's what I'm going to take up. Yeah, this is one of my favorite phrases. You say, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. Max Planck, he was a quantum physicist, and later on, many others have talked about this in various different ways. And then we're going to be using this again and again and again. So I just wanted to introduce this right at the beginning. Even as the discussions are going on, we can see how we have already started looking at it from a different angle, what is health and what is wellness and what not. So let us keep this in the back of our mind as the foundation for the rest of the 3 days. This is one of the shlokas from Bhagavad Gita, Dhyana Yoga, 6th chapter, 6th shloka. What does it say? Bandhuratmat manastasya enatmaivatmana jitaha anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatruvatu. Put it very simply, this mind of ours is what is preventing us to evolve. We usually try to give reasons which become later on excuses why we don't even have time to take care of this physical body, why we don't exercise, I'm too busy or too tired, all of this. So we keep looking for reasons outside of us to be able to be happy, to be well, to be healthy. But this Bhagavad Gita shloka, we can take it to a different level and say, it's none of the outside factors, but it is our own mind that prevents us to be healthy. It is our own mind that prevents us to be well. This is our own mind that prevents us to be evolving, irrespective of whether we are healthy or not. In other words, this mind of ours, when it is not trained, it acts like our own enemy. Whereas this mind of ours, when trained properly, will work with us to be like a friend. Yeah, that we understand this, we know this, Shloka. Then how do we train our mind? We have tried many different ways, but what we need to do before training the mind, we'll be able to give you various different tools how to train our minds. But before training our mind, we need to understand how this mind of ours work. Without knowing how this mind works in certain situations, in certain other situations, in various different situations, if you don't understand how this mind works, and we just keep training this mind, either with just the willpower, usually the willpower is what we use to train our minds. This is where we have done this before. This is where the first participant said, many people have promised many of the things. One more thing. That's why we want to go to the root to first understand how this mind of ours works. I'll let you in on a secret here. All we need to do is to keep focusing on our mind. As we go the next 3 days, we will right away say, oh, this is how my spouse is. This is how my daughter-in-law is, or my grandson. Now I understand. The mind tries to go and understand others' minds, but try to control that. Bring the focus back to yourself, just like during that mindful breathing. What Vasan gave the instructions, yes, the mind goes outside, but keep bringing back to your breath. In the same way, keep bringing the focus back to your mind. The reason is, once we understand this mind of ours properly, under various different circumstances, then we will be able to understand everybody else's mind too. So for this reason, the rest of the workshop, please bringing the focus back to your own mind. And that is an extremely important aspect. So how does this mind of ours works? What is the nature of mind? We don't realize this, or even if we realize, we take it for granted. Oh, this is the way the mind is. We can't help it. How is that mind of ours? The mind acts like a pendulum. It goes back and forth between our past and our future. And it is never stable in the present moment. If we are lucky, sometimes we may be able to bring the focus back to the present moment, as it is happening right now. Whenever we are learning something new, when we are highly focused, then the mind is on the present moment. But given a chance, the mind goes back to either past or future. We will understand this more and more as we go along. And what happens when the mind goes back and forth like a pendulum? We will look at the past with regret. And not just regret, also pessimism in a negative way. Oh, I should not have done that. I don't know why I listened to somebody else. This is how the mind answers to our own things. Or it is in the future, filled with anxiety. And not just anxiety about the uncertainties about the future, also filled with pessimism. So the mind goes back and forth between our past and future, filled with regret and anxiety and pessimism, both in the past and in the future. And if at all we are lucky, if our mind is on the present moment, it is never satisfied. Always looking for more, wanting more, because we feel there is something that is lacking. That restlessness leading to a dissatisfied mind. This is the nature of mind. We need to understand without any exception. This is how the mind is. Whether somebody is a saint or a scientist, doctor or a patient, professor or a student, does not matter. This is the way the mind works. If that is the case, then how do we take decisions? How do we make decisions? How do we act upon things on a day-to-day basis? We take decisions. We act upon these decisions based on our past memories, or because of the uncertainty of the future, filled with pessimism. And also we realize we are all biased. We don't realize this. We think we are extremely open-minded people, that we are able to not just tolerate, but also accept and embrace anybody, any religion for that matter. This is how we feel. This is how we are. But again, keep this in mind. I'm talking from a scientific angle, which means it is common. It is not so. We don't realize our mind is filled with many types of biases, such that I have even lost track of the number of biases that scientists have identified and even labeled and given examples. We're not going to go there. We don't want to understand all about our biases, but as somebody said, we're going to move into the positive aspect. But understand and accept that all of us, without any exception, have these biases, and also past memories, which is filled with regret and pessimism, and our present actions many times, and the decisions that we take in the present mode is based on that. So if we can understand this nature of mind, and then go into what are these biases. Again, there is a book that has been written. They have identified over 100 biases. We're not going to get into that. We're just going to look at one type of bias. This is like the mother of all biases. If we can understand this and keep focusing on the positive aspect, as somebody said, we don't need to understand the rest of the biases, to be honest with you right now, in this context. So with this, I'm going to hand it over to Vasant again to see further what is it that prevents us to evolve. Over to you, Vasant. Vasant, you're muted.
Yeah, thanks. Yes. Now we are going to get started onto one of the first and very important neuroscience concept, in the context of what is it that is preventing us to evolve. And as Usha Aunty had mentioned, that this is actually a mother of all the biases, all the various cognitive biases that the scientists have come out with. The mother of all biases is what we're going to talk about, and try and relate that in the context of our own life incidences. So the mother of all these biases is essentially what neuroscience calls it as negativity bias. And what does negativity bias mean? is that all our minds tend to keep recalling the various negative events, negative feelings, negative perception, negative experiences lot more frequently, and the memories of that stay lot longer with us than the equal amount of positive experiences that we might have had in the past. So this is what is called as a negativity bias. And again, this is something which is applicable to each and every person on this planet, whether that person is a beggar or a prime minister of the country, whether the person is a sage or a scientist, irrespective of caste, creed, religious situation or the geographical situation of the person, irrespective of that, this is applicable to one and all, saying that each one of us has negativity bias. Now, this is something that neuroscience particularly, has proven that by scanning the brains of and conducting experiments over thousands and thousands of people to prove that if there is a negative event and an equal amount of positive event, that negative event tends to stick into our brains for a lot longer. That part of the brain which is holding that memory tends to be lit up a lot longer than the equal amount of positive event or the positive experience. And if we try to relate this in our own lives, I would just like to give some examples in my own personal context, which I relate to. Recently, I was waiting on a bus stop, trying to catch a bus, and constantly looking at when the bus in the direction in which I want to go will arrive. Surprisingly, I was continuously counting the buses that were actually going in the reverse direction. And that happened once, twice, thrice. And then I was wondering, and somewhere the thoughts were snowballing, saying that, oh no, it's always that I don't get the bus in time whenever I want to go in a particular direction. It's always the buses are in the reverse direction. Then I thought over it and actually did some experiments over a couple of weeks and found out that it is just that I'm tending to recall when I didn't get the bus in the correct direction compared to the times when I have always got the bus very quickly in the direction in which I wanted to go. So that is a quick example of negativity bias, where the equal amount of positive experiences that we had, they don't stay on with us for long, but the mind tends to keep recalling the negative bias or the negative experiences. Another example that I would like to give about one of the Yogakshema faculty members, he stays on the 14th floor of a multi-storied apartment, and whenever he has to get a lift, he always had thoughts that whenever I go towards the lift, I always see the lift going in the reverse direction. And when these thoughts became a sort of a thought pattern, he decided to question himself and really document and find out for next 2 weeks to find out whether this is really the case. And to his surprise, he found that no, it's not the case. Many times I have also got the lift in the same direction in which I wanted to go, and but it was just that the negativity bias that exists within us tends to recall more of unfavorable situations that we encounter on a day-to-day life. And this negativity bias is innate within us, is there with one and all, and it is just automatic. It just exists. It does have its evolutionary significance for the human beings. We will not get into that right now, but it is just automatic. It just happens spontaneously to all of us. And the term that has been given here is, the starting point of that is a negative thought, automatic negative thought. And if you look at the acronym, it's called as ANT, ANT. Just like in nature, we have various kinds of ants. Similarly, we have this kind of ant population in our minds. Some may be very harmless ants, black ants, or some of them could be very serious ants, like the bully ants or the termites, where we tend to be blaming or defending ourselves or the situation around us. These are very deadly ants, which we call it as termites. And these ants also have a typical tendency to just move one after another. So if it is one negative thought, tends to lead into another negative thought, tends to lead into something else, and it becomes a chain of negative thoughts until we realize, oh, where are my thought patterns going towards? So they all, automatic negative thoughts, just as the ants in nature, tend to move in chain one after another, and they can result into snowballing into it very fast, very viciously, and resulting into maybe even some sort of, in extreme situations, some sort of chemical imbalance. Now, this negativity bias is something we need to be very much aware about the fact that it is common, it's with one and all, but recognize this, question our own negative thoughts, and do a little bit of fact finding, inquiring into our thoughts to make sure that they are, whether they are real or whether they are just imaginary. So these negative thoughts or the negative thought patterns that get formed over a period of time, they stick into our mind more like a Velcro. While the equal amount of positive thoughts or the positive feelings or the positive experiences, which also happen in our life, but we tend to discount that, don't give it much importance, don't tend to recollect that naturally, and they just flow away like a Teflon coated tawa, where those experiences are washed away. And the result of all this is we get frustrated because we do not know how to overcome this negativity, first in ourselves, nor in others. If I look at it, in fact, sometimes quite often I really question myself, and looking at the various popular commercial media channels, I find that the media is constantly, in fact, bombarding with a lot of negative news, 24/7 breaking news. While there are so many equal amount of positive things happening in the world around, but it is this negative news that comes more often, whether it is on the front page of the newspapers or the television media channels. And I tend to relate this to this concept of negativity bias, because the media is, of course, interested in making sure that they have their higher TRP ratings. And with the negative news, one gets hooked onto it more easily than the positive news that's probably happening around. So try to think about this in the context of your own experiences while you're watching the media, as to what happens when we are watching negative news for a long period of time. What happens to our own wellness? Now, if these automatic negative thoughts or if these thought patterns are not checked, are not examined, they have the ability to affect ourselves in all dimensions of our life. Not just health, it can also affect our work, our productivity at work, our relationships, and the overall being able to live our life with a zest, a sense of awe and wonder on a day-to-day basis. So these unchecked and unexamined automatic negative thoughts are one of the root causes of the overall well-being of ourselves. From a health point of view, particularly from a mental health point of view, if they're unexamined for a long period of time, they can result into major cause of imbalance in the chemicals. To begin with, it could be some sort of anxieties which come and go, but if it becomes a long-term chronic anxiety on a particular aspect of our life, it can even result into clinical depression or maybe several other mental health disorders. We'll not get into any of that, but even from a wellness point of view, it is essential that we inquire and examine these ants on a regular basis. Now, when these unchecked and unexamined automatic negative thoughts come into our mind, what happens with regards to our thought habits? What happens with regards to our thinking? Our thinking is rarely in the present moment. The present we feel is unsatisfactory. When we look at our past, we tend to recall more of the unhealthy experiences. We look at past with regret rather than recalling at the past, saying that I have learned something with that experience. So looking at the past with regret and looking at future with anxiety and pessimism is what tends to happen when these automatic negative thoughts tend to govern our life. The result of it is we are not in the present moment, we are not here and now, we are not now and here. Both in time and space, we are dispersed. Physically, we may be very close to our near and dear ones, but mentally, we are lost somewhere else. We are not able to give our full presence, our ability to listen or focus, concentrate, and have healthy conversations also many times takes a beating when these automatic negative thoughts tend to snowball into our mind. And what are some of the excuses that we tend to give to ourselves when these? Quite often we tend to say that, well, this is the way I am, or this is the way she is, this is the way the circumstances are, and there's nothing that I can do. I've been born like this. And with all the things that we hear and read about in the newspapers, we even point it out to the genes, saying that, oh, this is the way my parents were, and it's in my genes, there's nothing that I can do about it. But interestingly, with the recent research in the field of epigenetics, it has been found that the expression of these genes are actually in our control. It depends upon both our internal and external environment. And with no doubt saying that we have the ability to even go beyond the genetic predispositions that we all have, either with regards to our temperament or even with regards to our health. So our excuses are primarily because saying that I can't get up in the morning and go for my walk or exercises. Every time I desire for it, but it becomes difficult. These are some of the excuses that we tend to give to ourselves. And the consequences of this is, of course, we cannot change easily, although we want to change, but we find it difficult to change. We also shun away from responsibilities. We cannot be proactive. We find difficult to learn new things. And the end result is we cannot be what we want to be. In some sense, by giving these kind of excuses, we are actually cutting the same branch on which we are sitting, as this girl over here, as the picture over here is trying to show. Now, but the hard reality is that there is actually no magic pill that one can pop in and get rid of this negativity bias. Each one of us have to essentially work on ourselves, and the attempt at Yogakshema is to be able to enable both for ourselves within the Yogakshema faculty and as well as others to enable people to overcome this through knowledge, the knowledge based upon the recent advances in the field of neuroscience and positive psychology. Now, the saving grace for all of us is another neuroscience concept saying that most of these automatic negative thoughts are essentially false. So when I say false, they are primarily projections of our past unhealthy experiences into the future. So for example, just to give an example, maybe I didn't get a bus in time on one of the incidences, and that becomes an incidence which is more often recalled. As a result of it, I tend to always look at future incidences, saying that, oh, this time also I won't get bus in time, and go towards catching the bus with that kind of anxiety. But most often they are just projections, because the past unhealthy experiences stay into us for a much longer period, but they may not be real. The neuroscience has also found out, saying that 85% of these automatic negative thoughts are false. They are just our mental projections into the future, and which, if it goes unexamined, can result into declining wellness for us. Okay. I would like to stop here and maybe.
Yeah, I think for lack of time, Vasant, maybe we need to continue. They can send the questions, write down the questions in the chat box. Otherwise, we won't be able to cover the syllabus right now. We only have about half hour.
Sure. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
We will take up questions at the end, but keep posing the questions on the chat box, everybody. Thank you. So, knowing this, then what is the quick fix? How do we get rid of this bias or the ants? That is what we're going to focus on right now for our own mental well-being. What is the quick fix? Very simple. As we said, when we have not trained the mind goes back and forth between past and future like a pendulum. All we need to do is to keep bringing the focus back to the present moment. Keep bringing the focus back to the present moment, even though the mind goes, I should not have done that, or I should have done something else. It doesn't matter. Keep bringing the focus back to the present moment. That is the quick fix. That's why we always say, the initial mindful breathing was so helpful, not just for those few minutes, but we can put that into practice throughout the day when the mind wanders. But we need to be aware that our mind has wandered into the past or about the uncertainties of the future. That self-awareness is extremely important. And I always say self-awareness is the most important quality for human beings. As long as we are aware, we keep bringing the focus back to the present moment. And our breath acts like the bridge between our body and our mind, and also between our feelings and our body. So keep bringing the focus back to the present moment, which again means as long as we're doing that little mindful breathing every day, we have practiced to bring the focus back to the present moment through our breath. The same thing we need to do that here. Focus on the breath, and then remember at that time, both body and mind together in the same place at the same time. Body will be here, mind will be elsewhere in the past or in the future. This concept is extremely important. So that breathing, focusing on our breath, is extremely important. And how do we do that? If we do either 5 or 10 minutes of mindful breathing every day at regular time, sitting in the same place and at the same time, then the mind gets used to it. This is the quick fix for mind training. bringing the focus back to the present moment. And then what do? Being in the present moment, again, not complaining, mourning about the past or about other people, but keep doing the right thing in the present moment. Extremely important. We think about doing the right thing. We feel that we need to do the right thing. We say that we need to do the right thing, but just thinking about doing the right thing, feeling about doing the right thing, saying that we're going to be doing the right thing is not going to be enough. We need to act upon our thoughts. We need to act upon our feelings. We need to act upon our words, our speech. So keep bringing the focus back to the present moment and keep doing the right thing each time and every time is the quickest way to do mind training. So this is how we make our mind as our own friend rather than as the enemy. Again, the shloka bandhuratmatmanastasya enatmaivatmana jitah anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatruvatu. Quick way of making our mind friend to us, bring the focus back to the present moment and keep doing the right thing each time and every time. So with this, we move on to a little bit a switch right now. We have talked about the negativity bias. Please keep posing the questions if you have. Okay, there is a question. We will take that up. We will be going through this in the rest of the days also. There is a question on conscious mind, subconscious mind, unconscious mind. What are the different patterns and what is that role? We're going to get into that in the next 3 days. It will be answered. So rather than answering it right now, we will. But please keep posing the questions like this. This aspect of understanding this symptom cycle, this diagram is going to be important. I just have to put this in context as to how this kind of cycle or a diagram, how this came into being. In fact, the symptom cycle, what we call it here, you see all different symptoms. These were taken from inpatients, patients who were admitted to the hospital under various different conditions. It could be just medical condition, it could be surgical condition, it could be male, it could be female, it could be kids, it could be adults, it could be somebody on the terminally ill, it does not matter. All the patients were admitted to the hospital, what we call as inpatients, and the symptoms were collected irrespective of what the condition was, health, illness condition was. And then another meta study was done. Thousands and thousands of patients, inpatients were, the data was collected. And then they saw what are the common symptoms of all the patients who were admitted to the hospital, irrespective of their illness condition. So this is what we call it as meta study. And then, so this symptom cycle was derived. See, there is no arrow in this cycle. It does not mean one connects to another. Pain, if you have pain, this is what makes the muscles tense, and that is where we get repetitive thoughts. No, it is not sequential. These are all just symptoms that happen for anybody and everybody when they are ill, especially when they are admitted to the hospital. So these are the symptoms. irrespective of what the disease is, like pain, tense muscles, shortness of breath, tiredness, fatigue, and then depression, all different levels of depression, little bit of sadness to deep depression, anxiety about the uncertainties of the future, and the repetitive thoughts. Oh my goodness, what happens to me now? If somebody is young, worried about the job, I have to get this procedure done. I don't know how long I will not be able to work. So that becomes an anxiety, becomes anxious thoughts and then repetitive thoughts. Or somebody else who is old, now I'm going to become dependent on my wife or son. I don't want to do this. That repetitive thoughts leading to, look, each and everything is interconnected there. And pain, of course, is one of the common things. When I say pain here, it is only about the physical pain. All of these lead to difficult emotions in ourselves. This is easy to understand because these symptoms were collected from people who were really sick, who were admitted to the hospital. That's why we call this as key symptom cycle. You're with me, right? But look at this. I'm going to give a scenario. Somebody who is not admitted to the hospital, somebody like you and me, going through life situation. Every day this happens. It could be a situation of an argument with one's spouse, argument with the teenage daughter, argument with the neighbor, or just watching bad news or negative news on the TV. And if two people belong to two different political parties in the family, and then how that argument goes about. What I'm trying to paint a picture here is, irrespective of whether it is an argument or whether it is because of a personal situation or of a situation outside of us, it does not matter. Because of that situation also, we get all these symptoms or some of these symptoms. Each one will have at least some of these symptoms, especially pain. When you argue with your boss, when you argue with your loved one, all of a sudden that pain, it's always lingering a little bit, maybe knee pain, all of a sudden it increases because of our argument with our loved one. We are not able to understand, we are not able to accept what they are saying. Either the pain goes up, or stiffness in the muscles, or at the thought level, repetitive thoughts. Why does this happen all the time? I watch the news on TV and then I get into the situation. In other words, these symptoms that we get, it's not that everybody will have all these symptoms. Different people will have different symptoms at different times. Even if it is a single symptom of difficult emotion or repetitive thoughts, we don't even realize the repetitive nature of the thoughts. Keep happening again and again, goes into the loop, Not necessarily one should be physically ill, but it happens even in a tough situation. What we go through day in and day out, as simple as a tiff or an argument with one's wife, one's boss, or somebody stranger on the street, all of these happen. So all of a sudden, this is not key symptom cycle because of disease. It becomes one of that life itself. See, such close connection between our mental health, just a little bit of argument Or we watch some negativity on the news, on the TV, and what happens to all these conditions. That's why we say in Yogakshema, pain is inevitable. The physical pain is inevitable. We cannot avoid. However, suffering is optional. That physical pain, we keep reliving it. We keep talking to others. You know what happened? This argument with my son. And what happened? My BP went off. Or I was so good in handling with my nutritional diet because of this argument with my grandson who is a teenager. All of a sudden, I lose my willpower. I start eating at an emotional level. That is what is suffering. Pain happens at the physical level, but when we relive it at the mental level, and it gets worse and it happens again and again, that is what we call it suffering. That suffering, we want to make it optional. We have the choice not to relive that pain. Yes, argument happens. We need to leave at that and come back to the present moment and make up, whether it is with the grandson or a teenage daughter or wife or husband, it doesn't matter. Try to make up as quickly as possible. I cannot ask you not to have any arguments. This is life. It is bound to happen. How fast we come back is the question. And there is actually a yardstick. We call it FIT, F-I-T. The frequency of all these symptoms happening because of a life situation, because of an argument, that frequency has to decrease. Or the intensity, FIT, intensity should come down. Or T, the time interval for recovering, like as though it has not happened before. And to make up is extremely important. This is the yardstick we need to remember, FIT. This can only happen through knowledge and through practice. Only by understanding this, and not just understanding at an intellectual level is going to be enough, but to be able to put it into practice. This is how we make our mind as our friend. So, with this, we actually conclude at least the syllabus that we needed to work on today's. Maybe we can take up, what do you say, Vasant, some questions before we go into what is that plus. We won't ask questions about what is that plus, what do you think? That's not what we're asking. Until now, whatever we have talked about, what Vasant covered about the negativity bias, the ants, and how most of the ants are false, and about the quick fix, how to bring the mind back to the present moment and keep doing the right thing. Yes, argument happens. What is the right thing? To make up with our own loved ones. If we don't practice this at home, we will never be able to do it with others. How do we keep bringing back our focus to the present moment and keep doing the right thing each time and every time? And the key symptom cycle. If you have any questions regarding these, we will take it up before we move on to what is that plus. Yes, Kruti. Yes, you may.
Good morning, ma'am.
Unmute. Yes, Kruti, go ahead.
I really want to know that how can we break the negative chain? Because I have experienced this, that whenever normally people love to talk about the complaints and the negativity around them. So in the day-to-day life, they just pick the negative things. I've learned that I've started doing that. I've started practicing whenever I like our present thoughts are also based on our past experiences, right? So if somebody have done something wrong, or I know their thought process is negative, so
Yeah, I got it.
I get the negative thought, or I
Yeah,
just pick the negative behavior of them in the present.
yeah.
And I know that. So I started thinking that no, I have to think positive and let's break this. Let's see the positive things about the
Okay,
people around us. But
okay.
it is not automatically happening, ma'am. I have
Yeah,
to
yeah, I
break
got
that
it.
chain.
Yeah, let me
Yes,
answer there, Kriti. Very important. You raised an issue. The negativity, you catch the negativity of the other person, and the negative thoughts happen automatically. That happens automatically, but you're not able to stop it automatically. That is
exactly.
the key.
That is the question.
Yeah, let me
That is
let
the
me answer, because this is for everybody. As you know, Kriti's question is, when we understand when we get the negative thoughts, how do we stop? The thing here is, we understand we get the ants, automatic negative thoughts. That means the self awareness is heightened. It's not somebody else telling us that, oh, you're becoming too negative. We ourselves know that we have too many of these ants or automatic negative thoughts. Very important. 50% of the problem is covered. If we don't even realize, if it is somebody else who tells us you have too many ants, then we have to, it becomes more difficult. We will start defending ourselves. Why it is so? We get into even more of a negativity cycle. So being aware, self-aware is the first part of the answer. That, let us assume, most of us are aware. Otherwise, we need to be aware of our own negativity. The next thing is, I will again give you the quick fix. This is what we're going to be doing the next 3 days. I won't be able to give you the complete answer, because it won't help you if I give you the complete answer, because we're still building on many of the neuroscience concepts. The quick fix is, you already know that you have the negative thoughts, and you're absolutely right. It won't go away automatically. You have to put effort. You have to put conscious effort. You have to put deliberate effort. And how do we do that? Being convinced that this is the way. Being convinced beyond doubt. Okay, this is what science is telling us. I have to do it. There is no other way. You know what comes in the way? It is not our effort. We keep defending ourselves, and we keep blaming the other person, and we keep defending why this is happening to me, and we keep pointing the finger to the other person because of that person. I try, I cannot come out of it, and it becomes repetitive thoughts. So we can only give at a certain level. The repetitive thoughts again will come under a separate section about anxiety that we cannot cover here. It's another whatever 4-day 10-day course, you know, but we will give you enough for you to be able to handle. So awareness is there. You got to put lot of effort, self effort, and that you will be able to do only when you're convinced about this from a scientific angle. Because others have told us, we also know it is just a suggestion and opinion. Here, what we are giving you is not our suggestion, our opinion. This is based on research, facts, and figures. So, just like when we pray to God, we are convinced that the God is going to help us, right? Or it is good for us when we pray. It is that same conviction we have to have for science. There is no shortcuts in life. It is through knowledge. Why do I say can only give it a certain level? Knowledge, we cannot give it one time. We have to give the foundation. Based on the foundation, we need to keep building on that foundation. Every bit will help. Every other, the same scientific concepts, when you listen from a different perspective, how can you be successful? Maybe there's a talk on there is a YouTube link. When you listen to that, these concepts will get honed in. You will acquire more knowledge. Only through knowledge, gyan, is how we can come out and be convinced and just putting effort. For again, one last thing, why it is difficult? Because our why is not strong enough. If our why to come out of this negativity is strong enough, we will be able to do it. Now, that is why we are even giving you the why. That why has to be just single question. Should I just survive through this, whatever argument that has happened, or I take this as a stepping stone and evolve through this argument? Just ask that question. Do I want to just put up with this person, or have this person in my life and evolve through this life through this person? It could be, in fact, we can evolve better when we have certain difficult people around us. Otherwise, we will be living in a comfort zone. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. It really helps.
Yes, Ananya? You may unmute and then you can start talking. Yes, Ananya.
Good morning, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, go ahead.
Okay. So we previously discussed about how the mind is like a pendulum. Like, it moves from the past to the present to the future. It's never stagnant in any one place. And then we also had a discussion about how epigenetics has proved that genes are not responsible for the things we previously thought they were. So when the mind...
One second, I want to stop you right there. Maybe that is, we're not saying genes are not responsible. Genes are responsible for many of the things, but in spite of it, if we make certain lifestyle changes to many of the things, we are able to stop the expression of the genes if we have changed both external and internal milieu. That means there is still a debate about nature and nurture. We're saying both are important. It is not just the genetic aspect, and it is not just the environment, a combination of it. So go ahead, Ananya.
Yes, ma'am, of course. I'm aware. I was just asking that, since we have a tendency to expect perfection in a lot of things, like, that is the cause of dissatisfaction in the present a lot. So is there any root to that in genetics? Like, are we genetically inclined to expect perfection and, things to conform to the way we think they should? Or is it like completely mental, or is it like a mix of both? I just had a question.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing. I'm going to take a huge leap and answer this. You might be expecting at a certain level, but I'm going to take a huge leap because of the level of the participants and the depth of knowledge that you all have. I will say genetic, yes, in a way, what you talked about being a perfectionist, is there a genetic basis? I will say yes, not just for some people, for all of us. When we are born as human beings with the genetic makeup that we have, whether we know it or not, whether we accept it or not, we are all born to evolve as better human beings because we have the capability, we have the genetic capacity, we have the cerebral capability to be evolving into better human beings. So from that level, yes, we're all moving towards perfection. There is nothing like perfection, because if we think it is perfect, then it is not perfect. It is very similar to infinity, If we think we have understood infinity, we know what it is, then it is not infinity. So we're all moving towards that. The way to understand this, we're crossing the line to spirituality rather than just science. But even there, I'm trying to give you a scientific angle. For implementation purposes, moving towards perfection, we can equate that to leading a life of excellence and leading a life of fulfillment. That's a separate topic in itself. I don't want to bring that. I'm just going to stop after this, because I've opened a can of worms, even for myself, because that is one of my favorite topics. There is a clear-cut difference between success and excellence. There is a clear-cut difference between being a perfectionist and leading a life of fulfillment. I will just say this and stop. We need to aim for leading a life of fulfillment rather than leading a life of perfection. With that, I will stop. And then Darshan was the one who had raised his hand. Darshan, you may unmute and then speak.
Can you hear me, Doctor?
Yes.
Good morning. Okay, my question is...
This is 1 second, Darshan. This is going to be the last question, because we still have a few minutes to conclude, and then we will take up more questions after we conclude. Yes, Darshan, go ahead.
Doctor, my question is to get to the point of where we say the negative bias is a genetic bias, right? We have somewhere mentioned that this is how most of the metric of human beings on this planet behave, that we tend to be biased towards negativity, right? If that is the case, is there any study on this that I can refer to which says why there is no positive bias? Because what is the reason that the metric is following a negative bias? And in that case, why are we trying to fight so hard against it? Because it is a genetic bias.
Darshan, we don't want positive bias too. Being false positive is also negative. The whole question is about using our human qualities, which is, we already talked about self-awareness. The next one is the discerning power. To be using the discerning power and to figure out what is right and what is wrong, what is negative and what is positive, and then what is good and what is bad in the short term and in the long term. We don't want any type of bias, even if it is towards positive, even that is negative. We need to be putting everything to a true or false test and be truthful to ourselves. The only way we can answer this true or false test in a proper way is to be totally and brutally honest with ourselves. Then only we will be able to answer those questions. Otherwise, we will stay at the level of blaming and defending, blaming others, defending ourselves, and rationalizing our actions. Evolving means going beyond this. None of this I'm saying is wrong. I'm not saying blaming is wrong. I'm not saying defending is wrong. We have to defend it many times. We do this all the time. But whenever we are in that mode, this is what we call that as being in the survival mode. The negativity bias is extremely important, and this is what helps us to survive. However, it keeps us at the survival mode. This is where we need to understand and overcome so that we can be evolving first at an individual level. And then you will see how difficult that is for all of us, even at an individual level, to be evolving. Only after a certain stage, only after we have evolved to a certain level, can we influence others and to try to make this as a movement, and also help others evolve at the same time.
So, Doctor, sorry, I'll just interrupt. So, can I consider pain at a physical level as to what negative biases does at a uh, mental level, in the sense that pain is something that humans are provided so that they can survive as well, right? Because if there
Yeah.
was no pain, there
Yeah.
would be no mechanism to survive.
Yeah.
So, would pain be the parallel for what a negative bias would be?
I had not thought about it that way. You can put it that way if that makes you understand. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. Okay, can we finish off? We will conclude because we want to give you that plus. Both Vasant and I, we are waiting for that. What is that plus? Is that okay if I continue? Vasant, we have
Yes.
only a
Yeah.
few minutes. All right.
Let's continue.
So, what is that plus, right? We said mind body connection plus mind body behavior connection plus. What is that? You've seen this? So this is how we answer, okay? This is what it is. That plus is probably for some people, it is through sports. They use sports as a way to be really improve their wellness and well-being. For somebody else, it is music. For somebody else, it is yoga. It could be dance. It could be arts. For some people, it is just certain apps, health apps, meditation apps, mindfulness apps is enough. This is how I feel better. I am going to be on the path of wellness. Or some people only take care of the body. Some people only take care of the mind. And some people, or most of us, go through spirituality, right? And overall, everybody will say, one thing or other, we can include all of that. As long as I'm successful, that is what it is. I am going to be well. I will have a vision. I will have a specific goal. I will act upon that goal and I become successful is what we say. Again, as I said, this is not the topic for here. There is a huge difference between success and excellence. We need to be moving towards excellence and not success if we really want to be evolving. So I say, not even this. Yes, for some people, maybe, but I would say rather than not even this, yes, maybe each and every one or all of this, but there is something more. There is some that plus. What I'm trying to say is even after taking care of all of this, even looking for success and being successful in life, that is not going to be enough for the ultimate well-being. There is something more to this. And what is that something? That something is our interpersonal relationships. I'm just going to touch upon this and then share with you some of the quotes on interpersonal relationships and leave something for you to ponder upon for the tomorrow's class. See, we could be all of this, we could have all of this, and yet not have good interpersonal relationships with our own family, first with our loved ones, and then later on with strangers, starting at home to have meaningful and purposeful relationships is the way to evolve, is the way, ultimate formula, ultimate mantra for well-being. And that actually begins with a thought. As I mentioned earlier, everything begins with a thought. It begins with a thought, ends in better, improved, enhanced quality of interpersonal relationship. And It has to happen now, this moment. Because we don't realize only this moment now is what we have. We cannot plan this better in interpersonal relationships later, after my teenage son finishes his education, once he starts working, and then the relationship will improve. There is nothing like that. It has to happen now. And I will give you a scientific reason why it can only happen now. Because the ants, remember, it keeps us back and forth between past and future, never allowing us to be in the present moment. But past and future are our mental constructs only. There is nothing like past, there is nothing like future. Yes, it's very quizzical look, I can see. All I'm trying to say is the past and future are only in our mind, at the thought level, at the feeling level, at the memory level. But if we have to focus on the action, that is why, see, it is not just mind and body connection. It is mind, body, and behavior. Behavior means acting upon it. Action. Whenever we focus on the action, it has to happen, and it can only happen in the now. Even if we plan on doing something tomorrow, when tomorrow is happening, it will be today. Think about it. We will keep at this concept, keep going deeper and deeper in the next 3 days. Whatever we want to do, we can only do it, doing part, not thinking part, not feeling part, but doing part can only happen in the now. And what is that kind of thought? Through that, it has to start with a thought. Only one thought you should have, or one question, I would say. Whatever you're going through the situation, just ask the question, do I want to just go through this or survive through this? Just adjust through this, adapt through this situation? Or do I want to evolve through this? Just that single question, a thought becomes a question. That question is the mantra. Do I want to survive through this? Do I want to evolve through this? There is no right or wrong. You will see on the 4th day, nobody can force this, and nobody should force this. In fact, it will have repercussions if we force this, anything on you. It will have repercussions. We will see that at the 4th day. It has to come from within. Just right now, for today, the mantra is that question. Do I want to survive through this? Do I want to evolve through this? The answer to that question, we will figure out the next 3 days. So to conclude, again, the answer, one of the answers to that question, the mantra is interpersonal relationships. This is the ultimate mantra for well-being. No matter how well we keep our physical body and our mind, if we don't have meaningful, purposeful, kind, compassionate, understanding, and loving relationships, nothing will matter. And that is very much connected to interconnectedness of everything and interdependence of few things. So rather than talking about this, I'm just going to show few quotes of different people, and then we will just go through the quotes, and I will leave you with something to ponder upon. Beautiful. I think what makes us human is our interconnectedness among people. It is our ability to form and maintain relationships. It is the barometer by which we call ourselves human. This is what separates us from the rest of the animal kingdom. And look, life does not make any sense without interdependence. We need each other. And the sooner we learn that, the better for us all. Extremely powerful quote. Life doesn't make any sense without interdependence. We need each other. And the sooner we learn that, the better for us all. And interdependence is and ought to be as much the ideal of man as self-sufficiency, because man is a social being. We want to be very independent. We want to be self-sufficient. As much as it is, we need to be self-sufficient. Interdependence is also equally important. It is paradoxical, but that is the way it is. It's so important. With that, the next slide, I want you to ponder upon this. I'm just gonna not say this, but this is where we're going to understand the next statement tomorrow through the help of a story. We'll switch gears and ask ourselves, why? Why do we keep repeating patterns in interpersonal relationships? Somebody pushes our emotional button and then we react the same way because there is a pattern that is created. Why? Why is this? Why do we do this? Why do we keep repeating patterns, especially with respect to interpersonal relationships? And the scientific answer to that is our brains are wired. The brains are wired to find and make patterns. It is a pattern recognizing and pattern making machine. This is the reason we keep repeating the same pattern with our own loved ones again and again and again. Why does this happen? How do we come out of that pattern? Should we come out of that pattern? We will see that tomorrow. Until then, wonder and ponder on that statement. Before I leave, this is a very meaningful and powerful affirmation. Science, we call it affirmation, and spirituality, we call it mantra. We're going to go through this. This is the last one. We will go through this. We will understand. And how can we put this affirmation or mantra into practice? Especially important in this context. May every moment of our lives and the life of others around us be one of wisdom, inner peace, and happiness, leading to love. Thank you. No, if anybody wants to stay back and ask questions, Vasant and I will be around, if that's okay.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you very much. Vasant bhai, would you like to add anything, or we can take a couple of questions?
So, yes, I think that's fine. Even in the interest of time, we can just take a couple of questions and then maybe continue on that.
2 or 3
And please
questions.
sending us the questions that have come on the chat so that we will try to address that in the next 3 days presentation as well.
Yes, yes. So we have 3 hand raises. So we'll take these 3 questions and then end the session. Rakesh bhai.
Unmute yourself, Rakesh bhai.
Yeah. As Vasant Bhai has said, in a neuroscience concept, 95% of automatic negative thoughts are false. Then my question was, should we go for that 5%? Because that may be important, or how to identify, or by practice we can have that in a future if we keep observing.
Yes. Yeah. To the best of my knowledge, the latest data that I had heard was about between 80 to 85% of these automatic negative thoughts are actually false. And they are just our mental projections of our past unhealthy experiences in the future. But what we're going to talk about, what does it mean that they are false, and how to identify that? These aspects we're going to cover in the next 3 days.
Okay.
But right now, the saving grace is most of them are false. So we can say that about 85% of them are false. They're just our mental projections. But yes, it is equally important that we first become aware of them and put them through a true or false test, and that is the most important step for today.
Raju bhai.
Yes, Raju.
Namaskar, ma'am.
Yes.
We understand extremely in a positive manner what you have been saying, that self-awareness, like success and excellence. But I have my question just to understand me better, that thought is thought a matter? If it is matter, then how does it function through our conscious mind, unconscious mind, and subconscious mind?
We will try to cover this as we go along. Yes, thought is matter because it is, we cannot see it, but we know the effects of it. And then only when the thought occurs, there is changes in the electrical activity of the brain, a chemical is released in that way. It is very much matter. And as we go along, we will understand the difference between the conscious thought and the non-conscious thought, and which part of the brain it comes from. All of that we will go in the next 3 days.
Just say that thought is a matter and it can be exhausted. That is what I have been learning from
Absolutely.
the master. So just please include that also, please, ma'am.
Absolutely, that it has to be part of that. It only everything begins with a thought. If we change the thought at that moment, it's not just a thought, our belief system. What is a belief? Belief is nothing but a thought. When it happens again and again and again, we repeatedly happens, it becomes a belief. Otherwise, belief is nothing but a thought. It would have started just as a thought. Because it keeps repeating and then we believe, it becomes a belief system. So until and unless we actually change our belief system, no matter how much we change superficially, nothing happens.
Yeah.
So we need to go to the core of changing the belief system of whatever it is. And that we need to be convinced beyond doubt. When can we change the belief system? If we still have doubts, we won't be able to change. Only when we are convinced beyond doubt of something, then only we will be able to change the belief system. And even when we change the belief system, it cannot just remain at the thought level as a belief system. Now I don't believe in that. I believe in this. But that belief has to put into action. Everything is about action, action, action.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Harsha. Harsha ji.
Namaste, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, I have noticed that when we have negative thoughts or emotions, we see our breath pattern changes. So being mindful of our breath pattern helps, but sometimes we are so absorbed in the situation, we are so disturbed that this doesn't help also. So is it possible to bring the mind to the present moment in spite of knowing our mind slips being negative? So how can we bring back our mind to the present moment? Because it goes into automated mode in negative loop.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask this.
Yeah, I've answered this a bit earlier with the other participants' question. But the first thing, as you rightly said, if you're already aware that your breath is affected and it is changing, you're at a very different level, higher level. And then all you need to do is to focus on the breath at that time. Just focusing on the breath is not enough. We should have practiced this earlier when we are not agitated, when we are not in a negative mood. That is where that initial mindful breathing, what we started off the session with, really helps. We need to do this, even if it is just for 5 minutes. We went into detail and then we took a lot more time to make you understand the importance of that. But all you need to do is at least give yourself even as little as 5 minutes every day. Do the mindful breathing. Keep bringing the focus back to the breath wherever the mind goes away. And practicing this again and again and again is what is going to help when you know that you're aware of some of the negative thoughts, because you won't go into the, even when you're in that loop, that practicing earlier mindful breathing and bringing the focus back on breath is what is going to break that cycle. Trust me, if you, because you're already using the term in the loop, you're already aware. These are the repetitive thoughts. We are not bringing any technical terms here, just simple English terms as repetitive thoughts. You go to a counselor, you go to a psychiatrist, you go to a psychologist, they will be able to give the label. So can we, but we don't want to. Just consider this as repetitive thoughts, which means it goes into the loop. Understand this and put this, bring the focus back onto your breath and replace it with the positive thought. That is the mantra, that is the affirmation. It could be anything, any affirmation, any mantra. If you're a religious person, a religious mantra, even just a word, somebody said Jai Krishna, right? Even that is enough, but it has to be with full josh, with full feelings, with lot more feelings than that negative loop has. We know that energy of that negative loop goes into that vicious cycle, repetitive thought patterns. What we put in the mantra or the affirmation or the name of the god, or just bringing some visual aspect of a quality or an image, a very strong one, that could be it. It has to be a lot stronger than that repetitive vicious loop. Whatever positive that we put in has to be much more powerful than the negative loop.
Definitely.
And it takes a lot of effort. Yes.
One of my
Yes.
most common mantra in such situations, what Harsha been described, is this will change. It's anicca. That's something that helps me to keep coming back to the present moment. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, ma'am. I have been practicing mindful breathing since 5 years, And this has helped me a lot. I think
Very
I'm
good.
now aware of all my emotions. I can see that I am getting angry or any negative emotion. I can see, I'm aware. So this has helped me. Only this happens only sometimes, once in a while, because since doing this for long, then this has helped me a lot.
Very good. That is the way to go. And the repetitive
Just
thoughts are powerful. Believe in this now and keep doing this. And the next 3 days will help you. That why has to be strong, Harsha. You don't just focus on getting out of that vicious loop. Focus on evolving and figure out a why you want to do this. A very strong why will help you come out.
And ma'am, will distraction help? Going out and meeting some friends
Yeah,
or
but it is
watching
not the
TV?
final answer. I want to stop you right there. Yes, it will help, but it won't solve completely. Only the
Yeah.
knowledge. Yes, you should do that in the beginning, which means take external help. Absolutely. But finally, you have to rely on your goodness. Each and every one of us is innately good. There is innate goodness within each and every one of us. Believe in that and count on that, and that is what will help you come out of this.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Darshan ji.
Doctor, sorry, I'm prolonging this. Just a quick question. This can be answered or dealt with in the next session. Is that you said interpersonal relationship being the plus factor, right? And so my question is that for any interpersonal relationship to work, there has to be one tolerance from the individual itself, a high amount of behavioral pattern that reduces friction. And I understand that completely. But my question is, when you're talking about an interpersonal relationship, you're talking about multiple characters or multiple people in that situation, right? In multiple humans that you're interacting with. How do we control tolerance and friction levels from the other end? Or is it that something that I should even expect? That's my question.
Very good question. Yes, this is not just within the family, because you know what we usually do, we kind of ignore if it's a difficult person, especially if it's a colleague. She is another friend, used to be a friend, now become a difficult person. We try to ignore, right? Nothing wrong. Whatever I'm saying, there is no right or wrong, but we have to figure out that ultimate why. We may ignore seeing them. We may not see them. Some of the difficult people may be dead and gone, but they are very much alive in our minds. See, interpersonal relationships is not just about one or two people that we are close to. Even them, our own loved ones, we have so much tough times at times, right? And real difficult people, even if they're not alive, they are very much alive in our mind. Then how do you ignore that? Not by socializing, not by distraction. We have done that. Only through knowledge. And we need to, it is not about controlling others. It is not about controlling ourselves. And then how do we tolerate? That is what we have tried. We have adjusted. We have adapted. We have tolerated. At the end of the 4th day, you will see we will be able to accept them.
The way they are.
That is the ultimate, yes. And why they are in our lives is going to be important. Once that is answered, then we will be able to accept them.
Okay, doctor. Thank you.
Great question. Great question. It's going to be answered all the 3 days at different levels, Darshan. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thanks for that question.
I think there are no more hand raises, so we can conclude today's session. Usha ma'am and Vasant bhai, thank you so much for a wonderful beginning to this 4-day session on the ultimate mantra for well-being.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vasant bhai. Thank you, Usha ji.
Thank you all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all. Thank you, Ravish bhai.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, ma'am.